So good to be with you for Wednesday's edition of Footy Talk. As always, on a Wednesday, it's done a little bit differently. We take a look at things from the player's point of view. We give you the insight into what it's like to be behind the headlines and delve a little bit deeper into some of footy's biggest stories. I'm Jack Heverin. Always nice to spend a Wednesday with Abbey Holmes. Abs, good to see you.
Hello, always great to see you.
Big weekend, this one coming up.
Oh, yes, cannot wait. And it's been a big week in football. There is plenty
Thank you, Eddie.
news. Yes, there is plenty of news floating around. So as we do, the hump day on a Wednesday, we're going to delve straight into it.
We've got a lot to dive into today. Why don't we start, though, with our thought of the week, as we always do on a Wednesday. And the new ball, of course, is always yours.
Yes, look. My thought of the week is we are such an impatient society. We want and we need everything now. So my thought of the week is probably angled towards the Western Bulldogs and how harshly, Luke Beveridge is treated by the media.
Yep.
Rightly or wrongly. I mean, I'm a big Bevo fan, but look at what he's done at this football club, right? They won a flag in 2016 after 62-year drought.
Yep.
They played off in a grand final in 2021 against the D's, of course, over at Optus Stadium. But Malcolm Blight spoke during the week and he said, we need to actually appreciate and understand how bloody hard a premiership is to win.
Mm-hmm.
Sydney, 72-year drought. The Demons, 57 years it took them to win that one in 21 over in Perth. So I think, as I just said, as a society, we're so impatient. We're probably not giving them enough credit for how hard it is. And, of course, we want to win. We want that to happen tomorrow. We want everything to happen yesterday, So my thought of the week is that obviously the Western Bulldogs had a great win last weekend. They've got a big test against GWS this weekend in round 10, but just chill out a little bit.
I don't want to be the negative Nancy because to some extent I do agree with you.
Yeah.
What if they go, so they've got a big month coming up.
They do.
Their next month is really, really challenging. What if they go 0-4 in the next month and the season's pretty much done? I guess what I'm sort of asking is, can you have a situation like Damien Hardwick did last year where they get to a point where the season might be just about cooked and they shake hands and they say, we've been great for each other, but we're going to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
That can happen, can't it?
And how good was Luke Beveridge on 360
Brilliant.
this week?
I thought he was brilliant.
Sensational.
Yep.
And he was so just raw and unfiltered and organic. And I don't know, I just thought that was brilliant of Bevo just to say, hey, I've said to the club, if they think it's time, if I think it's time, let's just keep the conversation line open.
Yep.
Let's just keep flowing. Let's make sure that we're talking to each other so that everybody understands the situation that they're in and where they're going and what's best for the football club moving forward. So I thought that was brilliant from Bevo. But you're right. Of course, if they go 0-4 or 0 and whatever it might be over the next few weeks, over the next month, it's going to be a conversation point. And we work in the media, so we understand how it works. But what I'm saying to people out there is just grand finals are so hard to win. They're not easy. I mean, look, 72 years it took the Swans, 62 for the Western Bulldogs.
Ask St Kilda supporters about this.
Exactly. So I just think we as a society are very impatient and we probably need to respect the game and how hard it is to win one.
Last one on the Dogs. Do you think that people have been a bit slow to cotton on to what's going on here with the fact that they are, Caleb Daniels not been in the team, Jack McRae's been in and out, Bailey Dale as the sub, etc. Rory Lobb can't get a game, which we spoke about last week, but there are youngsters and players from other clubs coming through. Do you think it's taken people a little while to work out that there's a bit of a mini rebuild on the run happening here and that we should lower our expectations?
And I think that's a good move from Bevo is, blooding the younger guys because they're ultimately going to be the ones that are taking your football club forward in the future. So you just mentioned some big names there that have found themselves in and out of the team and coming in as subs and playing in the VFL. So we do need to actually, appreciate that as well. Within the four walls of the Western Bulldogs Football Club, they've got a strong plan. Yep. They know exactly what they're doing. So who are we to comment on the outside? Because they've got a strategy and they're rolling it out their way.
I will comment because that's what everyone does in this game. And Bevo's also, I think, a bit of a, whether you want to say guilty of it or whatever, but there's a few in the media that are squaring up a bit here on Bevo for years they've kept receipts for certain things and I think that's been an issue as well. My thought of the week, I don't want to start the show on a negative, but I just cannot get my head around why we've got no more Thursday night footy after round 16. Crowd numbers have been really good. Even on the Thursday, just gone a cold, pretty wet night in Melbourne. Still had the best part of 55, nearly 60,000 people. TV numbers are great. You speak to people at the TV networks and radio. Everyone's happy with Thursday night footy. It's going in the right direction. And then it's just been cut off at the knees after round 16. It just makes no sense.
Yes, so Fixture released yesterday, and that is, of course, always a hard-hitting topic. But you've just hit the nail on the head. Is it not successful for the AFL? The attendance numbers, great. Like the average numbers heading to a game on a Thursday, I would love to know that. The average viewership on a Thursday, I would love to know that.
They're good, I know that.
Exactly.
There's been some Thursdays that have outrated Fridays.
Yeah. So
mainly because you're hosting, of course.
But yeah, it's. I would assume it is quite successful for the AFL. But look, they are continuing to build year on year and integrating Thursdays into their annual calendar, which is a good thing. I think, from next year, it's going to be a different ball game altogether, and Thursdays might be a regular thing week in, week out. But yeah, I think from the AFL's perspective as well, as we head into the winter months and the cooler months, where people might, want to sit at home in front of the fire and enjoy Friday night football or their Thursday night footy from home, that's probably a factor as well.
Yeah, but we can take it interstate, can't we? Why can't we have a Thursday night game in Brisbane or a Thursday night game in Perth or something like that? So.
I mean, take our roles out of it. So remove us from the situation. I want Thursday football. Absolutely, I do. I want football every day of the week. But yeah, it's unfortunate that we're not going to see it for the rest of the year, and hopefully next year things do change again. But yeah, it's a bit devastating, isn't it?
It actually is, yeah. And you speak to your mates and all that sort of stuff that are the ones sitting at home watching it, and they all want it. So.
Well, as you just said, the way that you get your best read on anything football related is to ask your mates,
Correct.
people who are removed from the media landscape.
There's no point asking each other, Abs.
Exactly right.
We live in the bubble, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah, ask your diehard footy fans, your footy lovers, and absolutely they would want Thursday night football.
Now, you've got deep roots in the Northern Territory, of course, kicked 100 goals. It's a big part of your life, the Northern Territory. Sir Doug Nicholls Round kicks off tomorrow night in the NT with the Suns and the Cats.
Love it. I love Sir Doug Nicholls Indigenous Round. It is an opportunity for us to celebrate and highlight the incredible contribution of all Indigenous and Torres Strait Islanders to this great game that we all know and love. And to have it launch in Darwin, I'm so proud because, I'm lucky enough to experience football in the Territory, and I know just how much that great game means to everybody up there. It brings everyone together from all across Australia, but I'll speak specifically to my time in the Territory. So for them to open, I guess, the round with a bang up in Darwin, it's going to be an incredible night, and I'm devastated that I won't be there.
Are you not there?
I'm not there, unfortunately.
The Queen of Thursday night footy, and you're not there? What's going on?
It's a different Thursday night team tomorrow, so unfortunately won't be there, but I will be glued to my screen. And, it just got me thinking as well. We've got so many incredible Indigenous players that are currently running around the competition, and we absolutely, look at them in awe of what they can produce on a football field. But it got me thinking about all of the past players as well, and I was fortunate enough to go up to Sydney last week and spend some time with Adam Goods and Nikki O and their Go Foundation, and they do incredible work. The Go Foundation was founded for a way for them to give back to those communities that supported them throughout their football journey. So I was fortunate enough to go up there last week. They had their Culture Connect Day and just see the contribution that they're making post their AFL career as well. Michael Long, an incredible example of that with the Michael Long Learning and Leadership Centre at TIO Stadium in Darwin. These are just, forget what they've done on the field. They're incredible people and they're doing great things across Australia.
What about the 20th team conversation, Abs? I know this is one you've been watching very closely, but while we're talking about Darwin and the Northern Territory, we're at the point now where there's some studies and feasibility fact-finding missions going on to see what it could all look like. What do you think?
I'm all for it, obviously. A task force is being put together. We heard of that last week with the likes of Andrew McLeod, Nathan Buckley, Andrew Demetrio as well on that task force. But how long can we sit with 19 teams? I don't think we would
Not
want
long,
to. Exactly,
I reckon. Yeah,
exactly. So
not long.
we need a 20th licence, and if this is a genuine nationwide Australian competition, then the Northern Territory is it. Sean Bowden, who is up there now, is doing a mountain of work to ensure that this happens too. One thing that really grinded my gears, I've said that a few times.
Jeez, you've come in a mood today, haven't you? Jeez.
But another thing, I should say, not one thing, another thing. Kane Cornes, after last week's game with the Suns and North Melbourne, said this is a perfect example of why we can't have a 20th team in the Northern Territory.
Was that because of the greasy conditions?
Because of, I guess, the calibre of the game that was put forward. I'm sorry, and this is no disrespect to North Melbourne, but they are one of, where are they sitting on the ladder?
Oh, like stone motherless
yes.
last?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, but don't put North Melbourne there, who throw them anywhere around the competition at the moment, and they're 9 times out of 10 likely to lose that game. Send Brisbane up there, who are used to the greasy, conditions, who are used to the humidity, and it's a different game. So I cannot stand that when they say that is a perfect example of why we can't. No, actually, send one of your top 8 teams there. Send some Brisbane and Gold Coast Q clash. It would never happen, but send.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different product.
Well, numbers stack up for Melbourne when they play in the top end, and they played there for quite some time. Whether it's Alice Springs or Darwin, I think they're averaging sort of somewhere around about 85 points a game, I want to say, at either venue.
They average 81 at Traeger and 80 points at TIO. So there you go.
Yep.
Scores can be kicked. It just depends which teams you send there.
What are you making of tomorrow night, by the way? So the Suns and the Cats, as we said, are going to open up the round. No Jeremy Cameron for Geelong. No Tom Hawkins either. He's going to be rested. So we get our wish that we spoke about last week. He'll get the big milestone game at home next week at GMHBA Stadium. The Suns feel like they're a decent chance here.
They...
Or not?
No,
or am I reading this wrong?
No. I think this is a bit of a danger game for Geelong.
Yeah.
I mean, they resisted the temptation to bring in Tom Hawkins, given Jeremy Cameron was out through concussion. So it's probably smart by Geelong to actually go in there smaller. The conditions up there aren't great for your tall, 100-plus kilo forwards. So I'm very intrigued into this matchup because the Suns have proven that it's a fortress for them up there. They haven't lost in a number of years, and they want to continue to build on that and continue to make them really hard to play against in the top end. That one is very, very intriguing. And as I said, it's a great way to kick off Sir Doug Nicholls Round.
If you're someone who likes to tip an upset, or you might be behind a little bit on your footy tips already, that might be a good one to throw in tomorrow night, I reckon. Plenty more to come here on Footy Talk. We'll talk the Bombers after this because, let's face it, everyone's talking the Bombers at the moment, and a sad story to come out of yesterday as well. This is Footy Talk. If you're listening on Spotify, then hit the bell and you'll be notified when we drop a brand new episode. This is Footy Talk. If you want to get involved, then of course you can send us a message on Instagram at FootyTalk_pod. Abby Holmes and Jack Heverin for your Wednesday edition. Abs, everyone's talking about the Bombers at the moment.
Certainly are.
We're in this studio on Monday, and David Zaharakis came full nuff with full Essendon.
Imagine.
And I can understand why. It's good to see them enjoying a little purple patch.
See the Bombers fly up, as they say. But honestly, who would have thought that they would be 6-2? I think we wanted to see that steady progression of them throughout the year. But what Brad Scott and his side have been able to produce is incredible. And I'm really actually quite rapt for them. They're playing a great brand of football, one that's exciting to watch, and he's putting bums on seats. But Todd Goldstein as well. This is a hot topic.
This is a masterstroke.
A masterstroke recruitment move for the Bombers, and particularly now given Sam Draper is on the sidelines and we don't know how long exactly for.
No footy, no podcast, nothing.
I know. He's been blacklisted, hasn't he?
Grounded.
Oh, but, the recruitment of Ben Mackay as well to their backline, they have just been incredible acquisitions to this side, and it's going to be pretty interesting because they're coming up against their old team on Sunday. I'm not sure if you tune in to the Ben and Harry podcast. I am a full-blown fan. Yeah. The brotherly love between those two is brilliant. But the fact that Harry said that he's been booed before, thinking that, the fans were thinking he was Ben, and he's expecting it. Ben Mackay, he's expecting to be booed, as you do when you leave a team and chase opportunities elsewhere. But I'm going to be watching that one, Yeah.
I'm not sure Ben should care, to be honest.
No.
He's getting paid very well, and they're
Yeah.
6-2. So I think Ben's come out of this a lot better off than North Melbourne
I loved
supporters.
on that podcast how they celebrated his 10th win of his career, and he's been in the system now for a very long time.
You feel a bit sad.
It was when Tom Hawkins had his 350th that same round, and they were saying there's Tom Hawkins getting cheered off the ground, and then they're celebrating his 10th win. So, yeah, very funny.
Of course, you can check that out on the LiSTNR app. This show and everything else, including the Ben and Harry podcast, which is a very, very good one. Sad news yesterday. Concussion is such a big thing in the game right now. I think it's the biggest issue in the game, and it might very well become the biggest issue in Australian sport and world sport if it's not already overseas. But Aidan O'Driscoll, the latest, who's been forced to medically retire. Horrible pre-season collision with Bailey Williams. He's trained with the Bulldogs even as recent as yesterday. But hasn't been able to play an AFL game. That young man didn't even get a chance to live out the dream and to play at the elite level. It's very, very sad.
Your heart breaks for him, doesn't it? He's a teenager. And as you just touched on, this is an incident that happened in the pre-season. But what's so, I guess, interesting about this is that this is his first one as well.
Yeah.
So, we speak so often about players having multiple head knocks, multiple concussions, and that can, contribute to them stepping away from the game. But for poor Aidan, this is his first ever serious head knock, and I guess he's been recommended to not play contact sport ever again. So your heart breaks for him. He's only, a really young guy who, as you said, has the dream of playing AFL football, and that has been taken away from him. But another interesting thing, listening to Paul Marsh, was, of course, a report that's come out saying that AFL players, or 12% of players, have not reported concussion symptoms in the past. And this can be through, a number of different reasons, whether it's losing your spot in the team and potentially not wanting that to happen, or hitting triggers in your contract, whatever that might look like for the individual. But yeah, it's something that the AFL industry needs to work through, because there is so much medicine now, so much science behind it. We didn't have that 10, 15, 20 years ago. So the game has changed significantly. And yeah, it just kind of is a little bit gobsmacking as to, some of the numbers that are coming out of this.
I guess the only, if you're trying to draw any positive out of those numbers, Abs, 12%, I reckon if you had done that survey 10 years ago, it would have been more like 95%, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. And, Paul Marsh said we need to get that number to 0, though. It needs to be a league-wide understanding that the brain is something that we will not play with. This is probably the most significant injury in the game, and we need everybody completely buying into this. And, even once again with Paul Marsh speaking about the contract side of things, players should be potentially, they need to change contracts if they've got triggers so that players aren't put out for missing games through concussion or something like that.
Yep.
But, players forced to medically retire in the last 12 months, it's been staggering. You've got Marcus Adams, Paddy McCartan, Angus Brayshaw, Nathan Murphy, Paul Seedsman, Max Lynch, and now, add a teenager to that.
And there'll be more.
There'll be more.
Yep. There'll be more. And health is first and foremost. I think the two things they've got to fix on this, and pretty quickly to evolve with what's happening here, as you say, one is the sub rule, without getting bogged down in rules, but that's not working. You can't have a 0 number if the sub rule can't evolve with what's going on here. So that's got to change. And then the way that contracts are done in terms of triggers and games played and all that sort of stuff, that's going to have to change as well.
Yeah, definitely. The AFL, the AFLPA, they're all in constant conversations about this, just trying to work out what is the best way forward. So that's a positive thing as well.
So no Thursday night footy for you this week. So what is Thursday night? You wouldn't be home too often to watch the footy. What does a night at home with you and Keegs look like watching the footy? Have you got like a go-to meal and little glass or something? Or what does it look like?
I don't know. Because I'm never home on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
But I'm actually super excited. Whilst I would love to be there up at TIO Stadium, I am excited to be able to enjoy it on the couch for once. And I should make Keegs cook me a nice meal or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Uber Eats something.
Yeah.
Something nice.
Or not cook altogether.
That's the way to do it. Don't cook. Uber Eats
Yeah.
a little bottle of something and a
Yeah.
nice meal and
Oh, how lovely.
ticks the box. Hey, have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for being with us on Footy Talk. Tomorrow, Daisy Thomas in the studio, of course. The Queen, K-Mac, Kate McCarthy, is on deck as well, and they'll be joined by a very special guest. Carlton Premiership player and Norm Smith medalist David Rhys-Jones will be on Footy Talk tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.